All content provided on this podcast is for informational, entertainment, or educational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice of any kind, including but not limited to legal, medical, financial, exercise, or health related. Listeners are encouraged to consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. By listening to this podcast, you agree that the hosts, guests, producers, and all affiliated parties are not liable for any damages, losses, or injuries resulting from the use or misuse of the information provided. This podcast may occasionally feature discussions on sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised.
If I had a nickel for every high school kid that asked me, how do you get big? Today we're talking about what it takes to truly gain size.
Welcome to Faith, Freedom, and Fitness. Introducing your host, John Turk, a former police officer, fitness cover model, and the real-life inspiration behind Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. He is joined by Michael Wayne Foster, a former school teacher, actor, and model who's graced the covers of over 800 romance novels. Get ready for the F3 podcast.
All right, John. So maybe it was just because I was a high school teacher, and even though I taught English, I was much, much larger than every other teacher in the school, including the football coaches and the weight room guys. But I would always have students being like, Mr. Foster, I want to get bigger for football. I got to get bigger for wrestling, on and on and on. It got to the point where I was actually running the pro shop at our local powerhouse, and I would always get like the guy would call me up. I became friends with the sales rep, and he called me up like, dude, I got some amazing deals. You got to get your hands on them. So he was selling me boxes of protein bars when they were like right at expiration date for like $1 a box. This is a true story. Oh, so I'd get like, you remember back in the day, Bo Jackson released a bar. They're called the Bo Better Bars. I was called, I called it the Mo Better Bar, but they were so bad. But I mean, they were $1 a bar for 12 of them. So what I started doing is I'd keep them at my desk at school because all the football players come up and be like, hey, all it is school lunches. We don't know what to eat. I'd be like, $1 a bar. I had my little enterprise going. And the thing of it is I felt good about doing it because I knew it was either that or they're going to go down and just eat like pizza and French fries. So at least they're getting some nutrition, but on and on and on. That's the biggest thing with like, especially high school boys. How do I get big? So I always like to look at it as the three facets of really any nutrition or any training program is going to come down to like diet, supplementation, and the training. So I was just thinking maybe what we can do in today's episode is just sort of hit all three facets of what it takes to, gain size in this case. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Why don't we start with diet? What's your theories on getting big, bro?
Well, you never want to be in a caloric deficit because then you're going to sacrifice muscle when you do that, even though you're going to burn fat too, but you're always going to burn muscle. So I always try to avoid being in a caloric deficit and always try to be in a surplus. And what I mean by that is you need to first figure out how many calories is your maintenance calories. So in other words, how many do I burn at rest based on the amount of activity I do or the amount of weightlifting that I do. And in general, I use a formula that I've created on an Excel sheet, and I punch in your body weight, your age. When I use your body weight, what I use is your lean body weight. So in other words, I take the fat out of it and so forth. But for people out there that really don't understand, how that goes, there's a real simple way to do it. So what you do is to figure out your calories, you're going to take your body weight in kilograms, and it's your lean body weight. So if it's 180, you're going to divide that by 2.2, and that's going to give you your body weight in kilograms. And let's say if it's 80 kilograms, then you take that lean body weight in kilograms and you times it by 24 hours in a day. That gives you your basic line of maintenance calories. And then what I do is, let's just say if I'm, and this is, again, very rudimentary way to do it, but let's say you're sedentary, you add 10% of calories. Let's say you're moderately active, and that's like, a half an hour workout, 3 times a week, or you're active.
Let's say you're on the football team. That'd be very active, right?
Okay. So you're on the football team. I would do times 30.35. So I would take my body weight in kilograms and times it by 24. And then I would get that number. And then I would times that number I know it's getting a little confusing, but by 0.35. That'll help everybody give themselves their basic starting calories. And then you can either move up or down from there. So what that means is, say, for example, if my basic calories came out to 2,000, and that was my lean body weight times 0.35 because I'm a football player, and then I get my number 2,000. What you do is you take that 2,000, and you don't want to go above that or below it. You want to stay there and just see what your body does. And for example, if you start to lose weight, you know you're in a calorie deficit. You want to avoid that. The goal is to eat 10% calories above your maintenance calories. So what that means is if you eat a little bit more, you're not going to put body fat on. That extra calories is going to go towards building lean muscle. So I'm just going to recap that, all right? So you figure out, you go online and you look at a picture of what someone with, they'll give you different body fats. You can go to a website, I think it's called, just go on bodybuilding.com. They might have pictures of, people with different body fat.
This is 6%. This is 10%. This is 15%.
Exactly.
It shows now the love handles are starting, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right. And so you go on there and you look at that and you say, okay, I'm probably about, 10%. Let's just use a round number. Okay. But I weigh 200 pounds. So what I'm going to do is times that 200 by 10, and that's going to knock basically 20 pounds off my 200 pounds, because 10% of 100 is 10 pounds. 10% of another 100 is 20 pounds, right? So you got 200 minus 20 pounds. So my true body weight, lean body weight, is 180 pounds. Now just hang in there. Listen real quick. You're going to take that 180 pounds, which is your lean body weight. You're going to divide that by 2.2. And that's going to give you your body weight in kilograms, okay? So let's just say it's 80. You take 80 then and times it by 24, and that gives you general maintenance calories that you need to take in. And then you take that number based on how active you are, and you times it by either 0.15, 0.25, or 0.35. 0.15 is very inactive. 0.25 is mildly to moderately active. And 0.35 is you're a pretty active dude playing football. Now, again, you might have to adjust that up or down. You got to see what you do for a week. And the reason I say a week is because in general, your body takes 72 hours to really add fat onto you. People don't realize it. 72 hours, that's a long time. It's not a really fast process. A lot of the weight you gain is water when you eat these foods that are not good for you. And so everyone thinks, oh, I ate this pizza, I put all this weight on. No, majority of it's going to be, water weight.
Sodium, you're just holding on to a ton of water from that,
Yeah. So you take that 72 hours. That's why you wait a week. And in general, what you want to come out to is, let's say, for example, now just bear with me here. Let's say, again, to use round numbers, your weekly calories is what your daily calories are times 7, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just say if my daily calories are 2,000, again, to use round numbers, I'm going to take 2,000 calories, times it by 7, and I get a weekly total. And what that does is it allows you to go up and down each day, which is what you want to do, because none of us eat the exact same thing every day. And what's the reason behind that is your body wants to maintain what's called homeostasis. Homeostasis is your blood sugar has to be below 100 and generally above 85, right? It's got a fine area where it needs to remain. Your acidity of your blood, the acidity of your stomach, everything has what's called a homeostatic maintenance level. And your metabolism has the same thing. So if you eat the same calories every day, what's going to happen? Your metabolism is going to go, I see what's going on here. And it's going to slow down or speed up to whatever it is you have in there. But it's not going to do it over a week. That's why a week is your guideline to see, did I lose weight or did I gain weight on this number of calories? And the reason why is you look at your weekly calories, because each day you want to do a different level or amount of calories. So let's say, for example, 2,000 is your maintenance per day, right? And then you times that by 7, that's 14,000 calories for the week, right? Well, let's just say on Monday you have 6,000 calories. You got to make those up in the next days. You don't have that much of a difference. But for me, whenever I dieted or I wanted to gain weight, I always looked at my weekly total. And in order to really get good at what you're doing, you have to be scientific about it. You have to write things down. You can't just do it off the top of your head, because guess what? If you're failing or you're succeeding, you'll never know what it was. So it's
No, I was going to say all those apps for the kids that are listening right now, all those
Yeah,
apps that are on your phone, they're free ones. It's so easy to track your food. So sorry to
yeah.
stop, but I just want to let people know
Oh,
that
no, yeah,
that
no
is a
worries.
free tool that's on your phone. And you're right. It's huge because then you have no idea, like what you're talking about. If you're just like, all right, I'm gonna have chicken breast, some rice, all that, you have no idea portions. I mean, when it comes down to it, you really need to weigh your food as well. So you know these things, right?
Yeah, that was what I was going to get to after all, the total calories thing. Because a lot of times people eyeball and they're wrong. They're always wrong. And then they're doing a hurry. You can't. What you do is you have to establish, first of all, what you're going to eat. I eat a lot of the same foods all the time. So I know the weights based on what I've done for years. So even though I can look at it and eyeball it, I know that this one cup I have, if I put this much oatmeal in it, it's going to be 300 calories. I know if I put this much rice in it, it's going to be 300 calories. So I just know that my numbers are exact whenever I'm eating. It's not like I overshot here, I overshot there, because what happens then you get a big discrepancy in the amount of calories you're actually taking in, and when you do that, you really mess up your way of figuring out what's working and what's not. So
Mhm.
that's the number one thing you got to do. I like the app called MyFitnessPal. It's free.
That's
You
the
can
one.
use that. You just go on there and you set up an account, and they have basically every food you can imagine. So, for example, I was doing a diet for a guy in India. He's a real popular Indian actor. He's was on the cover of Time magazine, and I told him go on this app, and he said, "Well, I eat Indian food." I said, "Trust me, it'll be on there." He goes, "I don't think it'll be on there." I said, "Trust me, go on there and look." And he sent me his diet, and every one of his Indian food meals were on there.
Tiki
So
masala, vindaloo, it's all on there,
he had it all on there, man.
Right. And you can, and this as well, but we'll just tell the good people listening, you can scan barcodes too. So like a lot of times, if I'm grabbing like a Chobani yogurt or something like that, you just
Yeah,
scan the barcode and boom, and it puts right on there what it is.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Yep.
So that's the thing, and then you just got to be good with that. And then what it'll all boil down to is once you establish what your calorie range is, again, add 10% whenever you're trying to put on muscle, and take away 10% when you're trying to lose body fat. And then you want to do it in a fluctuation. When you're trying to gain weight, again, fluctuate those calories and fluctuate the calories when you're trying to lose weight. I will a lot of times error on the side if I'm trying to put weight on, up. And then if I'm trying to lose weight, I always kind of err on the side of down. So I'll tend to eat a little less, and I'll log that, right? And the reason for that is sometimes when you're dieting, you're going to get hungry or you're not going to be hungry.
Mm.
And you're going to want either less food or more food. I am the opposite of most people. I'm always hungry. And whenever I'm dieting, I always tend to eat a little more. And it's better when you're trying to lose weight to do it really slow and gradually. And the same thing applies when you're trying to put weight on. If you
Mhm.
put weight on too fast, it's not going to be good weight. It's going to be fat. And that's what you want to avoid, especially if you're an athlete. You want to avoid putting on just lousy weight, I call it, right? You want to have good muscle when you're putting that on. And a lot of times people do it with junk food. And I remember back in the early days in bodybuilding, in the late 70s when I first started, it was like, burgers, fries, everything else. I'm bulking up, and then after a while, I'm getting pimples on me. I'm just fat. And I'm like, what the heck did I do to myself?
Right.
Do it with good food, because it's going to be harder to eat more calories with good food too. It's easy when you're eating junk. You can just eat a ton of fat and grease, and next thing you know, you're way over. But when you're eating good calories, that's what's great about when you're dieting. A lot of times it's a lot of food. And especially if you're eating a lot of proteins and you're eating some good fats, that'll fill you up pretty quick.
Mhm.
So it's really important that when you are trying to gain weight, it's not about eating junk food. That's the mistake people make. It's about eating good food, good calories, so you're not going too high, but you're going high enough to get all your vitamins, your minerals, your good proteins, your good fats, good slow digesting carbs, and then just taking it from there. And it's also easier when you do that to determine what works and what doesn't, caloric wise.
Yep. I wanted to add to that if I could, because I
Yeah.
agree with what you said 100%. The thing it is, like whenever I've written diets for high school kids, especially, you know, I agree. I'm telling them clean food is the way to go, but you're still a kid. So if your buddies are going out for pizza one night, it's not like you're getting ready for a bodybuilding show. Go out and enjoy that. But it's one of those things, then jump back on the stick the next day. Look at those as like, I hate saying cheat meals, cheat this. It's a treat. Give yourself a treat. If your friends aren't going out for 2 weeks, then keep it clean. And then if the next week they go out a couple times, then go out and have a burger and fries one night and a pizza the other. But just make sure that everything else throughout the day is in line, so you're not just completely falling off the wagon, because that is easy to do as well. But it's just
Yeah.
that I've always found that high school kids, especially, if you tell them like eat all this, they'll do a lot. I mean, they'll do great with that. But then it's like, what do I do when I go out with my friends? And from you being in the magazines back in the day, every bodybuilding article was always like, weight is to achieve balance socially, and it was just because you know how it is when you're dieting. It's like, I don't want to go out with my friends and go to dinners and all that stuff, because it's like, then you have to be the guy. I remember a bodybuilder. Did you ever know back in the day, Hugo Rivera? Did you know him?
No,
I don't know if you knew him. He was a
So
bodybuilder.
Hugo with an H or Ugo?
Yes. Yeah. H with an H. He was in fantastic shape. He was, nicest guy in the world. And I remember that we had we worked for the same company at the time. We went out to lunch at the Firehouse in Venice Beach. And that's where, that's where Arnold and all those guys used to go and all that. And I remember Ugo was pulling out like Tupperware and stuff with chicken breasts and sweet potatoes and all this. And I'm like, dude, this is the Firehouse. You can get whole wheat pancakes. You can eat clean. He's like, I haven't measured. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. They might put butter in it. I was like, huh. That was the first time I remember just being like, okay. But then you're right. When it comes time to like do a photo shoot or whatever it is that you're doing, if the shirt's got to come off, how important it is to measure those calories. So again, when I'm talking to high school football players, especially, where it doesn't really matter what they look like, they're just trying to get bigger and stronger. They're not getting, they don't have to go out there and look shredded for a game. You know what I mean? Then it's like, if you want to have pizza or pasta or something that during the week, have at it. But, if you're somebody that is doing modeling or acting or something where you got to look a certain way, that is where, those cheat days should be non-existent during the diet, right?
Yeah. The only thing about that with kids, I'll just tell you, that I found, is when you tell them they can have a cheat day, it turns into 2, 3. Before you know it, it's more than what they're supposed to be cheating with, and they start putting weight on. So what I try to do is, if you tell them no, they're going to do it anyways, but at least they won't do it as much. So I always tend to tell them, and I should even be telling them this, because you're basically giving away your training. Yeah. So I just think that the thing of it is you have to really pick your poison. And the reason why is because it all boils down to habits. And when you start to have cheating days, can turn into 2 days, 3 days. And before you know it, you're completely off it. And you're like, screw it, I'm not going to do it. I just try to tell all my clients, the main thing you got to think about is the game starts here. It doesn't start here or here, right? It's here. And this is where the war is fought. It's like when we talked about working out, how so many people don't ever train hard enough, right? And one of the subjects we discussed was how people don't push themselves to failure. Remember, we were talking about the Navy SEALs and how they can control their mind and push past a lot of the pain and achieve success. Well, the same thing, you should approach weightlifting and dieting the same way. It's all in your head, and you have to be your own coach. Talk yourself out of it. I've talked myself out of so many bad eating situations, and the main thing is awareness. You just have to be aware of what you're doing, what you're going to put in your mouth. And too many people shut that off, and they do it on purpose, because what happens is I found that a lot of people get mad at themselves and then they cheat. And what it is it's almost a form of self-punishment. So for example, I'm really frustrated because I want to eat this and everybody else is. And then I'm like, screw it. I'm not good enough. And I've been trying hard enough. It's not happening. And then I penalize myself by eating it, because I'm actually going against my goals. And it's almost like self-sabotage. So what happens is you now have a reason or an excuse to fail. And so I try to tell kids, don't do that, because what happens sometimes is you could start to see that you're not becoming what you want to be. And then you start failing, and then it becomes more of a self-sabotage. So I just really think in order to be successful, I really am amazed by guys like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. When you look at them, the reason they are so successful is their mental focus.
Absolutely.
And you has to start when you're young. So I don't like to tell kids, yeah, you can have a cheat day. I just look at them and here's what I'll tell them. I'll say, listen, this is up to you. How bad do you want this? If you want a cheat day, go ahead. But I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be good for what you want to accomplish. You have to look at this as a training period, a cycle. Football is only a certain amount of weeks, right? So you really have to look in your head deep down and say, hey, man, I need to do it for this many weeks. I'm going to be spot on because I really want to do good this season, or I really want to play football the rest of my life, or baseball, or whatever it is that you're doing. And you have to start that mindset early, because what you're doing is establishing with that kid how he needs to approach his physicality, how he needs to approach winner's mentality. And that's what it all boils down to. If we keep giving these kids these, hey, here's your reward, go ahead and eat.
Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah, exactly.
I gave him the everybody gets a trophy out because I'm like, all right, one cheat meal.
Yeah.
Okay. But I agree with everything you just said, John. You're right.
Yeah.
Especially at that age,
Too, I got to look at it. Now, if this kid really wants to achieve his goals, that's the mindset you got to have. But if football is just a hobby for him, it's this season and then he's going to go out for baseball. He doesn't care how good he does, but he wants to do a little better. Do you tell the kid he can't have pizza? I don't know. But I always treat people the same. Like, you're trying to be the best and you hired me because you want to be the best, right? So I always tell people, listen, you're going to ask me what you can and can't do, and I'm going to tell you. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to like it. But why I'm telling you this is to help you achieve your goals. And that's the whole reason you came to me. So why am I going to lie to you to make you feel better? And that's what I try to tell all my clients, my kids. I train a lot of kids. I have a kid right now. He's doing really good. A kid weighs like 160 pounds. I got him doing pull-ups with a 50-pound weight around his waist. He's doing like 10 pull-ups like that. He started out, he couldn't even do one pull-up. So, I mean, it's like what has happened is this kid has just really like started out with wanting to be a better athlete for the Naval Academy, because he's a senior in high school and he wants to go to the Naval Academy and they require a certain physical fitness exam. Well, he just maxed everything out. You have to do like 17 pull-ups. He can do like 30 pull-ups. You have to be able to do a certain amount of push-ups, and he maxed that out. I got him doing push-ups with a 90-pound dumbbell on his back. He's doing like 10 of those. That's pretty good for a 160-pound, 18-year-old kid. And he's fast. It's just like, but he came in and I could see that I want to do better, and he's been with me now for, 2 years. So you have to figure out where do you want to be? Where do you want to land? That's the question you got to ask. Where do you want to land? Do you want to land in last place? Do you want to land in first place? Or do you really not care and you just want to kind of go at it? So that's where you got to really make the decision right when you start, because what's going to make you or break you is this mindset. And you have to have, I'm going to fail at I'm going to succeed at all costs, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, or it's like, I just want to do this for fun. It's fun. I want to maybe push it a little bit. Then, hey, knock your socks off. Go have a pizza here and there.
Right.
And, hey, I got to say, if I'm going to do it, it's going to be a pizza. I love pizza. And I know what you're going to do. You're going to do the old meat.
Korean barbecue it is for me.
Yeah, barbecue.
Hey, well, let me ask you this, John. What do you think? Let's finish up the nutrition part of this segment with what do you think the percentages of the macros should be? For those of you who don't know what macros are, proteins, fats, and carbs. What would be your ideal macros for someone trying to build muscle in high school?
So really, that's a topic that could really go on a long tangent. But I will tell you this: I'm a big believer in eating for your blood type. So, for example, I'm a type A negative, and I require a certain amount of carbs, proteins, and fats. And I've done it with many of my clients, and it's usually spot on. And Julia's an O negative, very rare. And everything it says to eat for an O negative, Julia's spot on. So I would start out right there and figure out what your blood type is. And then calculate from there, well, my blood type says I'm more carbs or I'm less carbs or I'm more protein, I'm less fat. For me, it's less fat. And for me, less fat is like 10%. If I eat more than that, I get fat. Even if I'm so if I eat 2,000 calories and my fat is high, I'll put weight on. But if
you were telling me, remember when you went on that cheese bender like a year ago?
Yeah. Yeah. I got so fat. I couldn't believe I remember one day I got up in the morning and it came on like that. I got up in the morning to stick my head. I shower at night before bed. I don't shower in the morning. So I stick my head under, and I'll stick my head under cold water, and I'll tell you why, because it helps your hair. Because cold stimulates your scalp. That's another reason
Sure.
I do it. So anybody out there, you're going bald, start dunking your head for about a minute under really cold water in the morning. It really helped. I mean, I'm 63 years old. I still got all my hair. So off topic there. But what I would do is I just found that I looked down when I went into my head and I look at my stomach, I go, what in the heck is that? And I had a roll. And I just stepped back. I went and looked in the mirror and I could see it. And I go, and it was like over the course of 2 days, all of a sudden I got a roll. And I go, wow, what is going on? And I just realized I cannot eat, not only fat, I cannot eat dairy fat. It really packs it on me. So I definitely avoid that. And for me, when I want to look my best, it's 10 to 15% fats. And the fats only come from avocados, olives, or maybe a little bit of olive oil here and there. And once in a great while, maybe once a week, I'll have, like a lot of saturated fat. And if I do, it's going to be from butter or a steak, something to that effect. But mine is 15%, let's say, fat. Then I eat probably, I'd say 30 to 35% protein, and then the rest is carbs. So I'm eating, about 50% carbs and about 15 fat, 35% protein. And I know that sometimes when I would diet, like, for example, when I did the muscle fitness cover, dude, I was 50-50, no fat. I mean, very minimal. I was 50% carbs, 50% protein, and I got shredded on that. Now you make somebody else have no carbs like that, and they're going to be brain dead. But you know what? I was fine. So everyone's different. You got to figure it out. So I think the bottom line for most people is you get those calories figured out, and then look what your blood type is and see where you land.
How do you figure out blood type, John? Is it when you just go in and get tests? You just like, what's my blood type? For people that don't know.
Yeah. So when you go to, actually, you know what? I think they have a self-test at home where you stick your finger and it'll tell you what it is.
Really?
You go to like CVS, call up CVS or Walgreens and figure out what your blood type is. You stick that thing in your finger and then it shoves that little spike in there. Just make sure you alcohol your finger real good before you do it. And then just take that and see what your blood type is. Or the next time you give blood or you go to see your doctor to do your yearly physical or whatever, I get a physical done every 6 months, actually. One time I just said, hey, could you tell me what my blood type is? And they did. And they told me I'm A negative. And so, I think it's good to know, too, because if you're ever in an emergency and you're going to the hospital, it's good to know what blood type you are, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely when you're in there, but it kills precious time. So
that's right. No, blood type diet, totally. That is definitely the way to go. Let me ask you this: supplementation, especially for someone in high school, what would be? I look back at my journey in fitness, and I always think to myself, hindsight 2020, what would be the one thing I would do differently? And when I got much bigger, it was my diet was kind of out of control. I mean, I think I told you one time. I mean, when I was like, I want to be huge. I was doing 36 eggs a day. Out of that, I was probably doing 14 yolks. The rest were whites. I was doing 1.5 pounds of red meat. I was doing 2 to 3 sweet potatoes, a couple cups of rice, all the green vegetables I could have, and about 6 protein shakes. I mean, that's all I was doing all day long. It was horrible. But I look back.
I would look like Fat Bastard from Austin Powers.
Right. And you know what? The only reason I think I didn't was because it was the summer. I was a high school teacher, so it was one summer. I'm like, I'm doing this, and I was training 3 times a day. I was probably overfed and overtrained, but at the time I'm 26 years old. I'm like, I'm gonna go for it and see what happens. And I got up to like 293, and I mean, I was really, really big, and I didn't have a full set of abs, but I was pretty lean for me for that size. But the point of it is the one supplement I always look back and I'm like, I wish I would have known about that. Would have been digestive enzymes. For the amount of food that I was pounding in that would have been helpful. I mean,
it's important that you you let people know that when you do that, it's always 5 minutes before your meal. So it gets in your stomach, starts diluting, because if you take it with your food hits your stomach and sometimes you get clumped in there. It's not going to do what it's supposed to do. So it's always at least 5 minutes beforehand.
Oh yeah, it's right when I'm walking into Korean barbecue. That's when I'm popping it. Figure by the time we sit down and they bring it out.
Yeah, and you got to make sure it's got bile acids. That's what people don't understand either, because that's what really emulsifies the fat when you eat it. That, and then there's also lipase in some of them. So it's really important to make sure you got a good, well-rounded version of the one you got from, I think you got Beverly, right? They make a
Oh,
good
Beverly's is great. You know what else
yeah,
is good too? And we've talked about this before.
digestible.
We're not getting Digestol by MRM. We're not getting paid for saying that, but I'll tell you what, that was one that in the supplement store that I own in West Hollywood, everybody came in asking for that, and it was
Yeah,
really really good.
yeah,
What do you think about as far as high school kids taking creatine?
absolutely. I think
Hmm.
creatine, they're going to find out, and they're starting to. It is probably one of the best anti-aging supplements you can take that completely works for the brain. And
Hmm.
also, I'll tell you, the best time to take creatine is take the scooper. I don't use a whole scoop because, man, I'll tell you, it goes right through me. So I can't use a whole scoop. And I think you know what I mean when I say right through me.
Oh, we when we Marco Polo, I know exactly what you
Yeah.
mean.
And so, dude, I take a half a scoop and I take it 10 minutes before my workout and I have it with tart cherry. And I love tart cherry. And the reason why is because number one, it's a little sugary, but it's a great anti-inflammatory to take right before you're going to work out. And the other thing I do is I'll sometimes take I'll take my collagen pills with vitamin C because that's going to help your joints. And I really think it's important for the young kids to know that you really need to start feeding your joints and being kind to your joints and being very intentional when you're eating. In other words, eat things that are great for your joints, bone broth, fruits, sulfur foods like onions and garlic. Those are great joint builders and joint maintenance foods. Because I'll tell you, the worst thing you can have is get into your 50s and all of a sudden you need a knee replacement or a hip replacement. You don't want to start. That's your life as you get down. And I'll tell you, some of them don't go well for people. And I've seen it, especially knees. So
That's
really
right.
start eating for your joints right now, too. And you can
Yep.
just easily go on Google or Chat GPT and look up, hey, how do I eat for my joints?
We'll wrap it up right now with something that everybody buys sooner or later, their first protein powder. Do you have any thoughts on, especially like the high school age, on what would be a good protein? You don't have to say a name brand, but I mean, do you think it's good for them to go with like egg protein, plant-based proteins, whey protein, casein? What do you think?
Well, I just think that, they always say whey is, the best amino acid profile. But I don't know. And I know people are going to give me crap for this, but I look back at pictures when I was a kid, when I first started, all we had was soy protein. That was
Yep.
it. And
Mhm.
I ate soy protein. My diet was basically soy protein, tons of tuna fish sandwiches with apples and, eggs. I basically ate eggs, tuna, and a little bit of fruit here and there, right? And dude, with my soy protein, I got jacked and huge at 16 years old, and I was like, wow. And I started incorporating soy into my diet again. Not a lot. You don't pound it, but I definitely feel better. I'm not saying that's the best, but all I'm saying is it's good to have a blend. You don't want to just constantly shovel whey protein in you. You want to get a blend of proteins, right? You want
Mhm.
to eat turkey, you want to have chicken, you want to have a little beef here and there, and eggs. I think those are great. I'm not a big believer in vegetable proteins so much as I am with soy. I'm not a big fan of pea protein. I think a lot of it has the lectins in it that irritate the stomach. And I've had the same issues with pea protein that I have with magnesium steroid. I just find I get that pains in my hands and my wrist, and it's a vegetable protein. I'm not real big fan. And plus, the pea protein is just nasty. It tastes like you're eating a
Oh,
dust, you know?
and they market it as like it's such a great
Yeah,
it's got a lot of leucine in it. It's a
yeah,
great
yeah,
leucine. Leucine
yeah.
is one of the branched chain amino acids for those of you
Yeah,
not knowing. But
and to make a long story short, I would choose either good solid egg-based protein, which Beverly has. I would also choose either a good whey protein as well. And they used to talk about casein because it was slower and it took longer to absorb and
Mhm.
break down in your system. So a lot of people would do that at night before bed, but that's going to keep you up. And they're also finding in studies it's really not healthy for the gut.
Yeah.
So don't mix casein up with whey. So I would do either a really good whey isolate. You want to make sure it's an isolate or a really good egg protein.
Mhm.
And J Rob makes a really good egg protein.
Are
They're
they still
really
around?
yeah, they're still around.
I
Yeah,
used to I used to love his bars. They had really
yeah,
good
yeah. His
bars.
bars are good too.
Bars were so
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
so I
There
would do
was
whey or I would do egg. One of those two for protein.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I've always been, my three things, and tell me one of the last things I'll say here, and please disagree with me if you do, but like I would always tell high school kids when it comes to size, if you want to know my opinion, the three best muscle building proteins were always beef, eggs, and cottage cheese. And cottage
Yeah.
cheese is casein protein, as you said. So I mean,
Yeah.
I just would always tell them that too, because like you said, it hits the gut like a freight train, but it turns into that gel and slowly releases amino acids. So casein protein is basically cottage cheese. So it's like, if they have a situation where they're not going to eat for an extended period of time, whey protein, I think we both know, is in and
It'll
out of the
go in you real
system,
quick, in and
goes
out.
to
Yeah.
the quick. Yeah. You're
That's
going
why
to
I
want to
like
go
it
with a
after a
meat or a,
workout. That's why I
yes.
like whey after a workout. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are some proteins out there. And again, I don't want to give plugs to just anybody out there, but if you take a look around, there are those blends that you talked about. There's
Yeah.
one that I buy it's got chicken protein, salmon protein, egg
Yeah.
protein.
Yeah.
It's all in it. And I'm like, that's, it's more of a, an animal-based protein source, which I'm with you. I've always steered to the animal-based proteins much more than the plant-based
Yeah.
proteins. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll say it, they taste better. Plant-based proteins, it's like, you'll see
They're
like the
nasty.
girl in the girl in the yoga pants being like, I just love the taste of my plant-based proteins. And I'm just like, oh, they're just gritty. I don't know. It's like,
They're nasty, man.
do you remember I don't know if they still make it or not. They might, but do you remember BSN? They were the
Yeah.
red
Yeah.
label that they
Yeah.
had like NO Explode and all that. They
Yeah.
had one called Syntha 6. I don't know if they still
Yeah. Yeah.
make
I
it or
remember
not.
Synthesis. Yeah.
That was by far the best
That's,
taste. Now, it had to
yeah.
be loaded with so much garbage because it was the best tasting stuff I ever had.
Yeah.
But that too was one of those blends with like the whey, the egg, the casein, all that,
Yeah.
milk
So I'll tell
protein
you
and
a
stuff.
real quick story before we sign off. So back when I was first starting out lifting, I was like, when I was really seriously at a gym and really like hitting it hard, other than my bedroom with a barbell with a set amount of weight, right?
Mhm.
I was like 15 and this gym opened up and everybody was taking this new protein that came out and it was called Hot Rocks. And Hot Rocks was like phenomenal. And everybody started getting gains and stuff. Everyone was getting really jacked. And man, we love this Hot Rocks. And it turns out that they were sticking D-ball in there.
D-ball. Yep, I knew it. The D-ball. Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They
Oh, I
can't do
mean,
that nowadays. But man, back in the day, who knows
oh,
what you were taking in.
dude, it was the wild west of
Yeah.
supplements. Well, and even in the 90s, I mean, I think about, we've talked about this before, but it's like all those trade shows that we both did. I should be dead, my friend. I mean, you'd walk around there and all of the different booths would have all their energy drinks, which back in the day was that mixture of like ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're going around sampling, there's like 500 booths in a place, and I'm taking a little shot of each one.
Yeah.
Just walking around wired out of your tree. It was
Yeah.
insane. I mean, I am so surprised there weren't more heart attacks like at the Arnold, the Mr.
Yeah.
Olympia, the North Americans.
Yeah.
Just like, how are we not dying from this stuff?
I'll tell you another real quick story why I never eat anything at those shows anymore. So I remember they used to have those bodybuilders, and I would be looking at them. They'd be all cutting the protein bars so you can have samples, and they would just pick them up with their fingers. And I remember one guy walked away from the booth. And I remember he was serving bars all day, and I go to the bathroom, and he's in the bathroom, and he goes to the bathroom, comes out, doesn't wash his hands, and I went, holy cow, I'm never eating another thing in this place again. And he had his fingers all over the bars. I'm going, oh man, that's nasty.
Man. It was, and
Dude,
do you remember this?
I remember I'd go to those shows and I would get sick. And
Oh,
one
yeah.
time I was so sick I couldn't even go down to the Arnold, and I was there with a buddy of mine. And so when we first got there, the first day I went there, I was eating bars and everything else. And all of a sudden, dude, I get so sick because it's a 3-day thing, right? And I'm just heaving, and I'm like laying there, and I get so sick. And all of a sudden, I had chicken that was in the freezer, and I took it out and I put it in a garbage can, and that's where I kind of kept it so it would thaw out. And so my buddy thought I was puking, because I was puking, and I was puking into the garbage can. But room service came, gave me a new garbage can. So my buddy comes up, and I had chicken in the garbage can, and I'm going like this, and I'm eating, and I stop. I look at him, he goes, dude, what are you doing? I go, what do you mean? He goes, you were puking in that. And I go, oh no, it's fine now. And I'm like pretending I'm eating my puke. And he's looking at me, he's going, oh, and he runs out, and he comes back in. I go, oh no, man, it's my chicken. And he goes, what's that? The chicken in the wastebasket diet? I mean, you just busting each other's chops. But I had so many good stories out of that Arnold when we go.
Man. Those were so much fun. They were.
I had a good time.
It was a blast. I mean, the after parties. But the thing that
Yeah.
I always remember, the last thing I'll say here is I remember walking through there and just wafting through everywhere was just the horrible smell of what happens when you have all that artificial stuff in protein bars. Because I mean, everybody in there is sampling protein bars and protein pudding and
Yeah.
and it was just like you get these big bodybuilder dudes walking around, And I just remember you'd be walking and you would just get crop
Just
dusted. Oh, it was terrible. Oh, it was terrible. But I mean,
so bad,
it
man.
was so bad. But yeah, but I'll tell you what though, that was stuff that it's like, you think of like lifetime memories that you would never trade, and working all
Yeah,
those bodybuilding shows. That was just, I mean, I used to call it hillbilly bodybuilding trick or
yeah,
treat, because you would just get all these people that like would show up at the Arnold and Mr. Olympia. They would just
yeah,
go booth to booth, just getting samples, and you'd look at them, they never worked out. They're just there to walk around and get some
yeah,
free stuff,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. I look back on that. I'm thinking, man, how many germs did I eat when I was sampling all those protein bars? 'Cause
Oh,
that time I was there and I got sick, man. I got really, I probably the sickest I've ever been. I'm like thinking, what did I eat? I'm like
yeah.
thinking, oh,
Did you notice though, over the years though, like I remember when I first started going to all the shows that have been like 98, like you'd go to whatever, let's say you're going to Metrex, you would get like a packet of Metrex, a full big 100 bar. I mean, they were
yeah,
hooking you up, and
yeah, we're
now like
hooking up.
hooking you up. And by the time, it got to be like probably 2005, 2000, it was just like, that's where the guys were taking the bars, and just cutting up. Here's a little piece. And it's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you'd go home with bags of stuff. It was awesome. And
Bags of
then,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
you
not
have
anymore.
bars galore forever.
Oh, right. I mean,
Full
it's
bar,
like,
you said it was like Halloween, man, for a bodybuilder.
it really was. It was
Yeah,
great. All these random pills. Sometimes, the little sleeves they come in, like the labeling would fall off, and I'd be like, "What are these blue and white pills? Let's find
yeah,
out."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. It's
Oh
like, man,
man,
I look back on that. It's like that whole weekend was just a eating fest of nothing but chemicals and who knows what else inside all that stuff.
I know.
Oh,
Oh, I remember at the end of the weekend, I would always be like, you know what? I could go another year and not eat another bar, because it's just, that's just, well,
yeah,
you're working the booth, you're talking to people, it's nonstop. You're engaged from what, 8 in the morning until 5 at
yeah,
night, nonstop.
yep,
And it's
yep,
just, you're sitting there and it's like just eating bars. So yeah, that
yeah,
was crazy.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
anyway, that
Good
was
old times. So,
the good old day. Here we are, the guys in their 50s and 60s telling all these high school kids, get jacked. And now we're going to relive the good old days. So, well, on that note, though, hopefully that sheds some light for some folks out there that are, looking to, especially for the younger people that are looking to, put on size, or like you said, by your calculations there, take some size off. And
mhm,
hopefully that sheds some light on some things that they can do to really, help their progress. And I'm really glad you did bring up the part about like, hey, because I would always go like lenient, telling them like, hey, it's okay if you want to have pizza. And you're right, you're so right, because I wouldn't do that. I used to
mhm.
get mad all the time, when I'd be like, back in my dating days, I'd date a girl and she'd always be like, I'd be in the middle of some hardcore diet, like, well, just have a bite of cheesecake. And I'm like, would you walk up to a grizzly bear, bite your finger, and be like, "Here, have a little bit of blood"? What do you think?
Yeah,
I'm going to stop with one bite? I mean, look at you and I the first time we hung out when you came over to my place in Armenia. I mean Glendale, and I
yeah,
had
yeah.
all those Armenian dessert. For those of you who don't know, I lived in Glendale, California, which is like the Armenian capital of outside of Armenia, and they've got the
Yeah,
most amazing pastries and desserts. So
yeah,
John
yeah.
and Julia were coming over to visit, so I got all these desserts to have and all this.
Oh,
And
it's so good, man.
John and I look over, and we each had like 5 of
Just
them. I mean, it was
popping 'em
crazy.
in.
Oh,
I
they're
grew
so
up on
good.
that food. Armenians and Turks eat a lot, the same foods. And so I grew up on
Absolutely.
a lot of that. And
Absolutely.
when you had that, I was like, oh, holy cow, I love this stuff, man. It's
I
everything I
know.
ate when I was a kid.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
I got a
Well,
really good place out here by me that I go to now. It's a basic Mediterranean place called the Kebab Shop. It's like a chain, but they're actually pretty good. I get their tabbouleh chicken. So it's a
mm,
big plate of tabbouleh, which is
mm,
basically parsley and cracked
mm,
wheat.
mhm.
It's got onions and cilantro and other things that are really good for you. And then I get a couple skewers on it, and dude, it's so good. It just fills me up. It's got a little bit of olive oil on it too. It's like my go-to thing now when I really want something different. I just run over there and I get a bowl. Julia likes it too. So
I had a friend, she's since passed, but she was Lebanese, and she gave me her recipe, and she made tabbouleh all the time, and she told me how to make it without the wheat bulgur. So it was just basically going with just the parsley and the spices and everything, and it was just
yeah,
because I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but for those of you out there that are like, if you're getting ready for a photo shoot or something like that, parsley's awesome because it's a natural diuretic. So I just eat for a couple days out. I just start smashing a bunch of tabbouleh instead of taking,
Yeah.
dandelion root or hydroxycut
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say I do the dandelion tea with the parsley is what I would usually do.
yep.
Yeah, it works good.
You got me thinking, one last thing before we go, and John and I are trying to keep our podcast here at least to 45 minutes. We're a little over, but I think this is worth saying. So today at church, they were talking about Caleb, and I believe it was Joseph, or they're out in the desert. They lived to be 85, and the pastor was talking about when they lived to be 85, and thinking about this, that, and the other thing. And I'm just sitting there in my head, and I'm like, all right, they're in the Middle East. What plants, what herbs were there? Was there
That's what I do.
ashwagandha? Was it right? Were they having wild yam? Like, what were they
Right.
eating that was causing all this? And I didn't even want to bring it up. It was one of those, I was in my life group, so I didn't want to be like, so
Yeah.
what herbs do you think were available? That I didn't want to say it.
Mike, you bring up an interesting point. The military follows when they go out in like survival mode. They follow basically the Daniel diet and what like John the Baptist used to eat. Grasshoppers and things like that, animals or insects with
Locusts,
wings,
honey, all that. Yep.
Yeah, all that stuff. And so when you look at a lot of what's in the Bible, it's very accurate. Like the Daniel diet is really common. Like, I don't know if you know the story of Daniel, but the king wanted everybody to eat a certain way. And Daniel said, no, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started, okay, let me eat the way I eat. And if I look worse, I'll start eating the king's food. And all of a sudden, after several months, they looked at Daniel and said, what the heck? And everyone else was all beat up. And they realized, wow, this guy's eating all the right things, which was obviously, a lot of vegetables and fruits and good food with lean meats. And he turned out to be, right about all that stuff. So the Bible has a lot of good stuff in it when it comes to the diet. I do that with the spices in there, like frankincense, myrrh, and all that stuff. It's really good stuff. And they treat disease with a lot of these things. People don't realize that's why they're so concerned about the Amazon, because so many of our drugs come from there.
Mm-hmm.
The Amazon holds a lot of importance as far as the medical community is concerned. And all these herbs and these supplements, you look at Chinese culture and Chinese heritage, they're based on a lot of herbs, and that's how they heal people.
It's preventative medicine, John.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is ours is just like treat it once it's occurred. The India, the Ayurvedic stuff in India, the Chinese stuff that's been around for thousands of years. We've totally turned our back on that to be like, here, take big pharma, and it's just.
Yeah, and so the thing with big pharma that's just really stupid is all they do is treat the symptoms. They don't treat the cause. And what people realize is they take the medicine and they like that because it gets rid of their symptoms. But what's happening is they don't take supplements with it, because supplements take time to get rid of the underlying cause.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a medicine. You don't pop it and it instantly goes away. Maybe once in a great while that'll happen. But supplements are taken to create an environment for healing. And once your body is able to heal, that's how you get over whatever it is you're suffering from. And that's why it's important when you take supplements to take them for a while, at least 30 days, just to see, hey, am I getting benefit from this? And that's what I find with tart cherry. Tart cherry is awesome.
I
really
totally agree.
So.
Totally agree. Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, we gotta want our audience wanting more, John. We can't give all the trade secrets away today. So we'll be back in a week. I want to thank everybody for listening. And John, sponsorship. Who's sponsoring the show today?
Well, I know a website that offers really good weight loss and diet programs and weight gaining programs and a whole bunch of different workouts. And it's called thefearlessfitness.com. The fearlessfitness.com. Go check it out. Click on the products tab. Thanks for stopping in. Be faithful, be fit, and be strong, and stay safe. I forgot the freedom part, didn't I?
Yeah.
Keep the freedom.
Yeah.
Faith, freedom, and fitness. There we go.
Thanks for watching.